Recording in progress.
What's the issues in Florida? 18. Come around Rhode Island, there used to be an ATV parade up there in the 400 Meg area. You do it on a road for free. I was the officer. Just there. Amateur television. There's only one up there, but yeah, there's so 2 years pretty much older. But he also from NASA.
They are doing the slow scan with some of the satellites.
Yeah,
On ISS.
yeah. There's a program that you actually use hold the microphone on this. He's responding photos. What they can decode pictures. Yeah, I never actually told. Okay.
Excuse me. So even though it's called amateur radio, we do amateur television. The original analog was fast scan, and we have also a slow scan TV. I'm familiar with the old analog. I don't really know much about slow scan. It used to be called NTSC, which stood for the National Television Systems Committee. It's yellow because it's a test question. They switched in, what was it, June 12th, 2009 to digital transmission. I don't know, is there any analog TV still broadcast? No?
Sure.
Unless
Unless
you're an amateur.
Well, I'm sure not. There's a lot of rockets that jaded elsewhere. It's great.
So the old system called FastScan has 525 horizontal lines, which they call a frame. Each frame consisted of 2 fields. So they would send 60 times a second, they would send out a field, an odd field and an even field. So the combination was called a frame. And they did that because what they called interlace between the odd and the even. The phosphors on the CRT would stay lit long enough that your eye didn't detect the fact that you were writing one and writing the other. Whereas if they just did the whole thing, you'd see kind of a blinking effect. So it was a way to make it look nicer to your eye. Without a phosphor CRT, I guess there's no really reason to do it that way.
Yeah,
They still, they do it that way, but
it's interlace versus pressure strings.
Right. So it says amateurs are doing it on the 70 centimeter band, which is between the old channel 13, channel 14. It is or used to be. I guess it used to be, right? And they're like 6 megahertz wide signals. And you can still use if you have an old analog TV, you can receive it. So how many horizontal lines make up a fast scan NTSC television frame? How is an interlace scanning pattern generated in a fast scan NTSC television system? What technique allows commercial analog TV receivers to be used, fast scan TV operations on the 70 centimeter band? Alpha. The NTSC or fast scan are AM signals, and they use what they call vestigial sideband modulation, where they have one sideband and a portion of the opposite sideband. It's supposed to improve the fidelity of the signal without having a big effect on the bandwidth. I'm not sure exactly what percentage of that vestigial sideband there is, but it's a small sliver. I can't say that I understand how that helps, but I will believe him. So what is vestigial sideband modulation? Which of the following describes the use of vestigial sideband in analog fast scan TV transmissions? Go, Charlie. True. that works a lot of time. So also, big surprise, you can do color as well as black and white. Then they send the color signal they call color bursts on sequential lines. And they call that the chroma. Forgot what the name was for the black and white. Luminous, right? How is color information sent in analog slow scan TV? In some cases, they use digital video broadcast, or the DVB T for terrestrial. I guess it's a big European thing, maybe Asia, but not too big here. It includes these other modulations, the quadrature amplitude modulation, the 16 and 64, and quadrature PSK, which means there's, let's see, in that case, 4 phases. Which type of modulation are used for amateur television DVB-T signals? It does incorporate forward error correction. And they have these coding rates, 1/2, 2/3, 3/4, all the way up to 7/8. So if it's a coding rate of 3/4, it means that 75% of the signal is image and data, sound data, and the other 25% is forward error correction. So it's a fairly high percentage of error correction that's being sent. In digital television, what does a coding rate of 3/4 mean? Alpha? Slow scan are typically transmitted on the HF bands using single sideband. Therefore, they can only operate in the phone portions of the HF bands, and they have to limit the bandwidth of the signal to whatever's allowed for a normal SSB signal, which is typically 3 kilohertz. they send a tone frequency that will, I guess, equivalent to luminance, affect the brightness of the picture. And then there's, I think we used to call it the vertical signal interval, where you could have information embedded there between the scans, if I recall.
Line 1 to 12.
Something like that. I think this is a similar thing where you can have these specific tones that will like control. So, what aspect of an analog slow scan television signal encodes the brightness of the picture? They tried to trick you with tone amplitude. What signals SSTVs receiving software to begin a new picture line?
Yeah, I can count 6, I guess.
No. Two-tone is for intermodulation distortion testing. So there are different slow scan modes, and the vertical interval signaling code that's sent is used to identify the mode that it's in. So it's part of the control stuff we just talked about. I don't know what the different modes are. I guess we don't need to know. What is the function of the vertical interval signaling VIS code sent as part of an SSTV transmission? Okay, and here's one that's still in there. They changed it a little bit. Anybody here ever heard of digital radio mondial? You know why it's in an amateur radio exam?
Used again.
I never use it ever. When it came up in the previous question pool, and there were 2 questions, I didn't find anybody that ever heard of it, knew anything about it. People confused it with DMR, but it's DRM. And as far as I could tell in research, it was created by some people in India as a digital broadcast band replacement for AM radio. And apparently it's big in Europe and places like that.
Well, shit, right? What they think of like shortwave radio?
Well, you can apparently receive it on single sideband with a computer. It's kind of like doing digital mode because it is digital. I don't know what the app is, but there's a program that you can decode it with, and you can receive it on a normal amateur radio single sideband. I don't know what band it's on. As far as the question, it's just decoding it. So what kind of receiver can be used to receive and decode single sideband slow scan TV using the digital radio mondial DRM protocol?
6. D.
All right. Oh, we're moving along rapidly.